Welcome to IMAGI-NATION TV. We are ready to rumble with a university special as we talk about IMAGI-NATION University. We're going to be learning lots of new skills like how to juggle. Can you juggle? Can you juggle? Dazza, can you juggle? Darren Brady, thank you for joining us. Stoked to hear what you're going to be doing as you enroll in IMAGI-NATION University. What's the vibe?
Mate, the vibe is excited. I think this has got a lot of potential. There's so much knowledge within the AIM space that flies left, right, and center. And to now have, it trigger a educational space that I think is so important will assist with this journey of AIM. I think so.
Yeah, it's sort of been a gnarly ride over the last 16 years. For those of you that are watching that don't know the AIM story, we've worked with trying to organise change over the last 16 years. So as a university student, I was sort of sketching a concept of what would a social network for good look like? What would it look like if we brought together people from different races, from different backgrounds, from different economic fields? And could we design a different world? Could we design a world where kids aren't born into a place where they're told they're unworthy, they don't matter, and that their life is destined to be one of destitute or being disadvantaged? Can we work with people who are born in a world of relative privilege and power and give that privilege a purpose? And that's been part of the genesis of our work over the course of 16 years, which has seen us work across the country in Australia and now in 5 or so countries around the world, from Nigeria to Uganda, South Africa, Zimbabwe, and in the United States as well. And now we're launching IMAGI-NATION University to take all of those tools and everything we've learned with building bridges, organising change, thinking about different economic models where we exchange kindness with each other, thinking about different ways that we can come together and exchange knowledge through mentoring. And at the pointy tip, how we use imagination, which we think is maybe the beginning of all human thought, to start again, to go in with a beginner's mindset and see if we can imagine a new world and then go out to build it. So we're going to catch up with Darren Brady on the other side of this university launch film we've pulled together for you all to get a sense of what it's all about.
We know what happened in 2020. But let's imagine 2021.
Let's imagine what a free and just world looks like.
Let's imagine a university free for all, with no paywalls to higher order thinking for anyone, anywhere. Let's imagine a social network for good. A bridge for us to come together and redesign the way the world works. Let's imagine what happens when we tell the kids at the back of the class that we see you.
There is a generation of kids just like you.
Let's imagine school students, university students, teachers, executives, citizens coming together to learn. Curriculum designed for the future we hope to build. Now imagine. It's happening right here. And you're invited. Welcome to IMAGI-NATION University, brought to you by AIM, the Imagination Factory. Applications are open now.
Hello, I'm Asterix, and it's my honour to be one of the key professors with IMAGI-NATION University. You see, I'm a professor in hoodie economics, which, Darren, do you know, hoodie economics is the model by how we've tried to organise ourselves over an extended period of time. And one of the things we've looked at is, can we exchange knowledge and time and then have that not necessarily be linked to money, and think about different ways that we can gather? What do you think about our current economic models and whether we value kindness and exchange of knowledge?
I think we are starting to grasp the importance of it, just as a human society. However, we're still very much not connected to each other. Therefore, there's no real sense of relationships, of communities as such, because we're so broken up. But we're getting there. We're getting there. I just wish we'd get rid of labels. That would bring a whole lot of other things, including a sense of togetherness.
I love the work that one of my fellow professors has focused in on, which is building bridges, which we'll be teaching at the university, where, look, we accept our differences. You know, I have this wonderful purple fur and I'm proud of it. And I'm different to you, Darren, but we also share a lot in common. So if we can acknowledge our differences and then, I don't know, walk onto a bridge together. Don't you think, Maddie? Hey, Maddie, great to have you here.
It's so awesome to be here. Thanks for having me.
Tell me, why are you interested in Imagination University?
So I'm a musician and I live on the Mornington Peninsula. I co-run a charity called Flow Creative Events, and we focus on creating opportunities for emerging artists and also donating money to different charities and focusing on community projects. So yeah, I'm really stoked to be here, and I'm really stoked to be working with AIM.
And Darren, have you thought about what project you'll engage in as a citizen with Imagination University?
So I was listening to the show yesterday. Is there 6 or is there 4? Because you mentioned 4. Yes, you said there were 6, but there were 4 that you mentioned. So I'm not too sure what the other 2 are.
Oh, I wasn't on the show yesterday.
What was yesterday then? There was Sam Schultz. Yes, okay. I was thinking of building the bridges. One of the biggest assets I have is bringing people together. And I'm very much passionate about it's a must that we have to be capable and be available to each other, no matter who we are, what background we are, to make a sense of where we're going and what the world looks like. And that includes, like Jack, for example, different lenses. They're the lenses that haven't been, a part of what has made this world today. You know, who created the cars? Who created houses? Who created, a mattress? That could have been, very much a black person, but they weren't given the knowledge that others had received to be able to achieve those sorts of things. So bringing those sorts of lenses now in the room, which are now in the room, are creating so much, so much one conversations to then just, things about life, and then of course then connections, relationships. It's quite beautiful when it's happening.
Well, very excited, Darren, to see you building bridges in Imagination University next year. And Maddie, thank you so much for joining the family. One of the things we're so excited about is being able to bring together unlikely alliances, to have you, Darren, as a citizen, and yourself, Maddie, potentially in the university. And then yesterday we had a fantastic young man who's a businessman from Nigeria. And then we have organizers from across the United States, people from Europe, to bring together really a huge, big group of people and see what we can do when we gather with our differences as our strength.
Yeah,
now,
so important. So important.
Absolutely. Hey, we're going to throw to a quick video, which is the history of AIM, which, some people might be thinking, who are these punks, starting their own university? What do they know? Well, here's 16 years of evidence. It only goes up to 2 years before, so we've learned a couple of things. I've written a thesis, for example, on hoodie economics, which you'll get to study at Imagination University. Maddie, Darren, it's been a pleasure. Opportunities are there, and we're just there to help you. $50 and you have to wear your budgie smugglers.
National Hoodie Day is a chance to look good and do good.
tonight we're going to announce that next year we're going to run a global campaign to give away 20 golden tickets to 20 university students from 20 different countries to win a one-off scholarship for 3 years to see if they can take our model and rip a generation of powerless people out of inequality. Not only are we going to nail this back home, but we're going to turn our eyes to every kid that's been left behind and see if we can build a better, fairer world for us all. That starts tonight. Get ready for the next 10 years. You ain't seen nothing yet.
You. Sitting in the back row with the fire inside, we see you. You who has fought for everything, we see you. You who knows what it is to rebel, we see you. There is a generation of kids, just like you, waiting for you to see them. So if not you, then who? If not now, then when?
Shawnee Edwards, thank you for joining us on IMAGI-NATION TV today. I think you've got a special guest with us. Who have you got with you?
How you going, brother? Introduce yourself. You're talking to these mobile. Look, this bloke, Jack.
Yo.
You gotta say hello.
Hello, how are you?
My name is Charles.
Hey,
Tell him where
At Callum. At center.
Oh, cool. Well, thanks for dropping in. It's good to see you. I like your sunnies. They're pretty stylish. Shawnee's got a bit of style as well. Sean, tell us, what are you interested in with IMAGI-NATION Uni and being a citizen in this university next year? What's your sort of project that you've been thinking about?
Yeah, well, I've been working on sort of borrowing from my time at AMB. I've started a social enterprise called House of Darwin. So we've been creating territory-inspired garments and using the funds to go into remote communities. So I'm out in Yirrkala at the moment. We're just at one of the most prestigious Indigenous art centres here in just outside of Nhulunbuy. So I was just looking to reconnect with all you guys and seeing what you're up to, and if there's some way I can learn from all the different cultures around the world as well as contribute. So if there's something we can do in the fashion space, I'm pretty interested.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, what an interesting. It's such a cool idea when you can get cloth to move to action, which creates change. And there's definitely got to be something in that imaginative mind of yours that you can cook up in the group next year. We've got John who's with us. John, how did you hear about IMAGI-NATION University, and what's made you interested in what we're looking to try and do? I think you might be on mute.
I have the same accent that all you guys have. So I just wanted to be part of the Australian community. Now, Brendan reached out to me, and I found what you guys are doing is amazing. And I'm a builder of bridges, like you were talking in the previous segment. And what I do is I believe that the world should be all inclusive. I'm a little older than seems like everybody else that was on earlier. And I just am not happy with the way the world is right now. And I have aspirations and love in my heart for the next generation. I think that they deserve more. And I think Imagination University, bringing different demographics together, different age groups together to solve the problems that we're facing right now, or challenges, because there are no problems, just challenges, is going to bring ideas and inclusiveness back into our society that has been missing. And I look to be the guy that helps fund social enterprises like what Sean's doing in Garment, with what some of your other individuals here are thinking about, and bringing their ideas to the market, helping people create jobs, not just giving handouts with charitable dollars, but using charitable dollars in a way where we make real societal change.
And that's exactly the sort of part of the design, John, that we're hoping to curate is, and you spoke it so well there, you know, a connection between maybe what Shawnee's doing and Sean going, hey, I'm not sure how to get this off the ground, and post it into Slack, which is our social network for good for the university. And then you go, Sean, I might be able to help out. And then maybe our professor of organizing change, who's also joined us on this panel, Lionel Korn, can jump in and provide some insights on how case studies have worked over the last little period. Lionel, have we got you there?
Stand by, mate. I'm just
I'm standing.
Getting myself sorted. Can you see me?
Gotcha, pal.
Yeah, mate. Hey, how you going? Wonderful to be part of this panel today. Nice to see you all. What an amazing group of humans you've managed to pull together today there, Jack. Good on you, mate. You're always
we've done it together, Lionel. They I think one of the things, you know, we've been sharing flyers and a few different posters in telephone directories. So there's a lot of old telephone directories that are sitting dormant that people don't use anymore. So we put a bunch of photos of you and told everybody that you're the professor of organizing change. And so people are really here to gather to listen to your insights. And then I just thought it was cool, you know, to hear bounce from John to Sean and just see immediately what we're trying to do here, which is build those bridges between connections that may not have usually happened before, so ideas can come to life. And yeah, what are you looking forward to in your work as a professor, and what are you hoping to help facilitate with organizing change?
Look, I love that that idea of building those bridges and thinking about the idea of community very much into that, because I think we're at a point in history where we have made our lives so comfortable that we've kind of driven a wedge between connection to our natural environment around us, and we're at a brutal tipping point at the moment where we're consuming 100 billion metric tons of resources every year. Fish, plastics, metals, timber, fossil fuels, all to kind of keep ourselves very comfortable, very cozy in the world that we've created for ourselves, with this wedge that we've driven between us and the natural world that we consider ourselves not a part of, just something that we like having around. It's nice to have trees, nice to have animals, and yet we see ourselves as separate from that. And I see that on a grand scale, on a big scale, the idea of creating change where, you know, in a world where we're burning carbon for 7 million people, it was buried under the ground. You know, we've got mass deforestation impacting carbon, the water cycle of the planet, 1.4 billion cars on the road. You know, these are things that we can change.
You're just warming up.
Stuff, Jack.
Also just sharing with the audience, one of the things you get to look forward to is Lionel has also got his master's in the environment. So Lionel will be sharing his climate classes with us, which today we have a snippet of Lionel's first climate class. So Lionel, thank you for being a professor at Imagination University, and, you know, for all of your deep research over an extended period. I think you're 750 years old or 75 years old or 75 minutes old, somewhere in between that range. But your knowledge is beyond your years, whatever they are.
Jack, and thanks for allowing me to go off on a tangent there. Thanks for reining me in. I just get very passionate about these things.
Like all good professors. Shawnee, what are you looking forward to if you were, you know, in terms of providing advice as we think about the design of Imagination University and try and bring it together? What's something that's sort of standing out from you as you're looking at what we're looking to build?
Yeah, I'm looking to have a voice from the grassroots. As you can see, hold the phone up there, Charles. We're surrounded by the youth of Yirrkala. So if I can provide a voice and a platform for all the kids out here on the coastal side of the Northern Territory. It's a 15-hour drive from Darwin, and the wet season's coming. So once the rain hits the roads, you can't get out here unless you take a plane. So I'm looking forward to building little bridges for these guys out here, and hopefully, we can contribute to a project to help kids around the world.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Shawnee. Thanks, John, for joining us. Really looking forward to working with you on this project over the course of the next 12 months as we bring it to life as well. So thanks for dropping in.
So see you later, Mob.
See you later.
All right, there you go. We're going to drop into a film that we made with a French filmmaker named Laurent Witz and with a group of friends at M&C Saatchi as we look to take this idea around the world, and just what Shawnee was talking about. How do you throw your hand to someone who might be not immediately in the world that you're in, maybe physically a little bit in a different space or even geographically, and then how do you build that connection? And I think if we want to change the world, we've got to change the way it works, and that's what we tried to create with this film Cogs, which we're going to share with you now. Rev, tell us what's interested you and grab your attention with Imagination University.
How are you, Jack, firstly?
Yeah, I'm having fun, man. It's good catching up with so many interesting people. We had an awesome day yesterday. It was we're literally bouncing from Nigeria, then back to like my mum as an Aboriginal woman, then offered her the first emeritus professorship. And then we bounced over to the States and then bounced to another youngster. It's just really cool to see a complex network of people and help sort of sit in the middle of it. It's just been a real privilege for me to be a part of this.
Mate, it's a privilege for me to join you today. I tuned in yesterday, and it was great to see so many people join in from around the world. I guess what really excites me about being part of Imagination University is, mate, I can fulfill a dream that my parents had for me to finally get a degree. So, mindful that it's, we can, I guess, collectively join forces to enable change. That's incredibly powerful. But I think education for everyone is incredibly important. Me, myself, I'm the co-founder of the Thoughtful Agency. So, we work with an array of fashion and lifestyle brands, and I guess I'm always mindful that however we can help, you know, that's probably the most important thing. And for me, I had the opportunity to start my studies, but didn't actually graduate. So yeah,
there's a few fascinating kind of points to bounce off there, because as the more we've dug into this, and we started working with kids 16 years ago, and one of the things that made sense was like, all right, if you can get a higher education or you go to university, you get a degree, you get paid more, you sort of have the chance to have more economic equality, which hopefully leads to more equality and more opportunities, and trying to follow that logic thread as a roadmap out of disadvantage. Now, one of the challenges with that one is working out how do you free the mind, you know, and if you are going into a system where you then follow orders, a lot of universities have, partially by design, partially I think just by the whole way the world's worked, they've then become stuck and connected with jobs, and then you're paying for a degree because you're going to get paid in a job, and it becomes a little bit sort of complex and maybe doesn't reach that higher order thinking piece. And I'd love to go have a chat to Alfredo if you're there, and some of your gang, and what's interested you as you've seen Imagination University sort of land in your world, and what you're looking at bringing to life.
Hello, Jack. Nice to meet you. It's my pleasure to be here. Yes, of course, it's amazing. And Amy, the work that Amy have been doing the last 15 years is very inspirational for us. We create Bit 21 because we have a big problem here in Latin America, because the educational models are very passive, and these models passive are one of the big causes for this educational gap and inequality in social gap, that we believe that with education in an interactive by imagination, we can create a beautiful world, more equity, more a better world, a fairer world, just like you and Amy. We have a team, so I want that you can meet us, all the team. So here is Paula. Paula, good night. It's good to see you.
Hi, how are you guys?
Paula
Hi,
is you maybe want to tell something more about Bit 21.
Yeah, Jack, everyone, how are you? Nice to meet you. When we were filling up the form to getting into this beautiful conversation, one interesting thing that we would like to share with you guys is that we as a group first meet on an online startup weekend, but even though we have meet online, like in person, we are creating a real family, because we are all like sharing this big dream of creating a fairer and more equitable world. And we think that educational systems are like a huge part of this impact that we want to create. So it's great to be here. And as I remember that Alfredo once told us that, and we all share this feeling, that when you see this video about how educational models are working, it's something that really impacts you and makes you want to do something to cause an impact in a real way and in a positive way.
And yeah, that's brilliant. And the work, so much of change or anything is the dream, and then saying it out loud, and then trying to find people to work with you in it. And Rob, as a storyteller, one of the things which I think at the heart of what we're trying to push in on is, I think life's a story, and we either play our part in what we think are some established roles that we have to play, or sometimes we work out that we can be a writer and we can actually start to write our own scripts, What do you think, you know, as you look at the goop of what's coming together here, what sort of got you jumping into this world to have a look at what Imagination University might be able to do, and what power can story play for us? I've just got you on mute if you want to jump off mute.
Hi, like.
So, Jack, and hi everyone from around the world. It's so great to see you all. Wow. Hey, Jack, just then you just mentioned this notion of our life being a story. And at what point can we learn to or understand that we might be able to write our own story? So just immediately that jumps into some work I was doing on a rites of passage camp with my sons last year. You know, sort of 20 boys and their significant men in their lives going away for 5 days, and talking about what those young men want to become, and becoming part of their own timeline. I don't think I made any active choices about the character I wanted to be until I was about 25, 26. And by then, you're a whole bag of habits masquerading as characters, and it's difficult to make those changes. What really enlivened me about this process of imagination and Imagination University, Jack, was something that my dad said to me before he died, and it really resonated with me. Now, just quickly, my dad, he was a federal politician for a lot of his life. Then after that, he went and worked for the Red Cross, and he was a humanitarian. He was awarded the highest honor that the International Red Cross give to individual citizens for humanitarian services. He was a complex and marvelous man and an extraordinary thinker. Before he died, a conversation I had with him was around political discourse, public dialogue, how people come together to solve problems. And he said to me, Rob, we as a species don't yet know what problems we are going to have to solve. But I firmly believe if we are to solve them, then we need as many people in as many places with access to their imagination. And so he said, whenever he looked at laws or different things that people were going to work under, the last question that he asked himself before enacting change was, does this allow more people to be imaginative or less people to be imaginative? And if it was the former, then he would press forward without fear or favor. That was his final goal, his Northern Star. How can we make more people think with their imaginations around the world? And so, Jack, the things that you're trying to achieve here, I'm very, very interested in, because at the heart of my dad's assessment there is a true faith in human nature. There's a faith that humans, with the right environment and the right culture around them, will do the right thing. But the other thing, and something more complex that and this is the reason I'm jumping into Imagine University, is because I want to get clear on what imagination is. I want to get clear on the environment that is required for people to feel they can be that, because it's complex. At once you need to feel safe and you need to feel nurtured, but you also need pressure coming at you. You need to be able to fall without fear, but you also need to know that those around you love you. So
it's going to be, I think, getting one promise I can make to you is that we will not get clarity on what imagination is within a year of the university. We might get close to inquiring, and that's what we're setting out to do together, is try and explore, you know, and Siani, I'd love to bring you into the conversation now. Try and explore what can we actually break down so we can share the genesis of these ideas around imagination, around mentoring, around building bridges. You know, when we look at division around race or culture or nations, wealth, you know, that complexity, Siani, is such a difficult gig to try and work out. How do we come together, respect and understand our differences, talk, find a language, and then design together? how do we look to do that, do you think, from your experience? And yeah, what's drawn your attention towards Imagination University and what we're going to try and work towards?
Hey guys, so what's up guys? Super happy to be here. But one way I think a lot of people can come together, and as you know now in the United States is kind of chaos, but one way that I found to come together with, various people is just understanding that we're all the same no matter what. I come from a biracial family, so my dad is Spanish, my mother's African American. So just even our house is kind of like the beautiful metamorphosis of the two. And relating that back to education, it's the same thing. Why should one child, just because they live in another zip code, have a better school life education than another child that lives in a different zip code? And I think that's something that I'm super thrilled that, Imagination is doing. And just breaking that education inequality is something that myself as a nonprofit founder also aims to do.
Yeah, it's fun. Like at a certain point, Rev, in the process of whatever you do in life, I think working out what you can do well and then what you can't do. Like what we've realized after 16 years of wandering, building those bridges, looking to explore what we could do in America and all these different places. We're pretty good at gathering a complex crowd like this. Like we can sort of help get some people into a room. And then after a certain point, like if sort of back to Rob's point a little bit, if we genuinely want to see the way the world works change, then that's going to have to be up to more than whatever AIM can do as a small organization within its own world. It's really about a seismic shift in the way that we all think about our own personal responsibility to create change. And if we can start to do that and not look at the non-profit sector to just pick up the pieces along the way, then I reckon we're in for an interesting little ride. And that's what's called our, businesses like yours coming on to go, actually, we really want to get to work in some complex ways. And then we've got a party. If we start to have business and journalism and different cultures and different backgrounds, we've got an interesting chemistry. And Einstein once said that it's the smallest changes that can create the biggest changes. And so to create system-wide change in an education system, it may not be that much more than flicking a little switch in every teacher's head.
Yeah.
It might not cost anything. And we could transform the way that schools work.
Absolutely. And I think, one of the big opportunities that we collectively have is to join forces, as a global movement. And that's something that I'm really excited to work with you on, Jack. I obviously have a Sri Lankan background. So for me, I'm automatically thinking about how we can, connect with some folk that I know on the ground in Sri Lanka who have, corporate social responsibility projects there. And I think it's an amazingly powerful movement that we're, creating together. And yeah, looking forward to the process of collaborating.
And it's Paula, and feel free to bring in anyone else from your team that you'd like to maybe answer this question as well. It's so ugly starting things. Like it's not sexy to try and create change. And it is like, we had, 150 views of our live stream yesterday for our big launch. And when we launched globally 4 years ago, I stood on the front lawns of the university that I went to where we started AIM, and we had 30 people turn up. And I'm constantly reminded of that Margaret Mead quote that never forget that a small group of committed citizens can change the world, because it's the only thing it ever has. And I think that's what's fascinating about this. You don't need the big headlines. It's actually 10 people on a Zoom call can start to create chemistry that moves things, and because that's the only way it moves. And yeah, how have you found progress and trying to make progress with the team that you're working, and how do you cling on to hope and want to stay motivated to keep working?
Like as a group, I think that when you have a common vision, it's easier because you share feelings, you share concerns, and you share goals. So as a group, since we met all together, like we shared this, so it was easy at the beginning. But at the beginning, you have like these beautiful ideas, but when you are trying to make this practical, it's when everything gets a little bit messy and you feel hopeless. But what are we doing at this moment is that we are educating ourselves, and we are trying to, as a group, to support each other, because we all have like different strengths and failures. Like I'm a lawyer and I have experience in public policy, and I don't know a thing about webs or back front, end front, and all those things, but my colleagues know. So we are supporting each other through our strengths, and so as a group we can progress and thrive, and yeah, to achieve this bigger goal that is uniting us.
Siani, we're about to finish up, but how do you balance having a vision for a fairer world, or a vision for change for tomorrow, and that anxiety inside of you when you say it out loud, where you're like, how am I going to do this? How do you balance that and be confident and be vulnerable and have a vision and still try and know that you don't know all the answers? How have you tried to find that balance in the work you're doing?
Man, that's something I go through on a daily basis. I don't think I ever said it, but my nonprofit is called Social Society U. We also started off on a campus. So even that first step of launching is scary because you don't know how it's going to turn out. So something that I do, I do it, I pray about it, and then I walk away. So if I have to send a message to 50 people, I'll send it out, pray about it, and then leave. And then another thing that I do to kind of keep me going is remember that I was successful in the past, so I can be successful in this now. And so just kind of creating, a one step after the other type of thing, and learning from mistakes. Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us. I'm really looking forward to working with you on Imagination University. Rob, when you spoke about imagination, I think that's been, after 16 years of working across different cultures, different worlds, different people, sitting with kids outside Kampala in Uganda, sitting with Mandela's family, and in South Africa, working with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people around our country, sitting with prime ministers, being in New York, advertising rooms, all these gnarly experiences. The one superpower I reckon we've got is imagination. And I think if we can find a way to build muscle around that and build tools around that, that it will be a phenomenal body of work to gift the human race. And that's what I hope that we can achieve together. So thank you all for coming on and being a part of this segment. And we look forward to working with you next year.
Thanks, Jack.
Thank you very much.
All right. Professor Lionel Corn's back with a climate class. I think he's outside. Lionel, over to you.
During this year's fire season, around 110,000 square kilometres of bush, forest and parks across Australia burned. That's the size of Switzerland, Jamaica, Taiwan, Israel, Singapore and Norfolk Island put together. Which sounds like a fun country. Scientists recently said climate change increased the risk of these fires by at least 30%. I'd planned to ask some of the local animals what they think of climate change, but unfortunately 3 billion of them died in the fires, so there's no one left to ask.
Riley, have we got you there?
Hello, yes.
How are you?
Good, thanks. Yourself?
Yeah, good, man. Hey, tell me what's interesting you with Imagination University? What sort of grabbed you from what you've been able to see so far?
So I haven't really seen too much, but basically anything with AIM and the imagination and everything that you've created has just been great. It's inspired so many people, and especially taking this next step up. It's just, I love the connection of connecting people still in this time, and how there's just so much information, so much to learn, and so much to learn from other people. It's great.
And you're in year 12, is that right?
Yeah, I'm in year 12, finishing a couple of weeks.
Nice one. And are you part of the Bundjalung Nation as well? Is that right?
Yep.
So one of the things which, when I started this, Riley, I was really hoping that part of what would happen is we'd do a bit for a while, and then kids that we were mentoring would pick up the baton, and then they'd provide some knowledge for some other kids, and that we just create this really nice cycle, which I think, when we look back 60,000 years, I reckon was the heart of our ancestors being so successful and so smart in not only surviving, but thriving through a really tough climate in Australia and surviving the ice age and whatnot. So what we're offering for year 12 grads and for university students, people enrolled in university or wanting to organise change, is a chance to be an Imagination president for a year, where effectively you get to grab 100 odd volunteers and do the AIM experience for 100 odd high school kids. And that, I think, we've had 20,000 Indigenous kids go through the program in Australia so far. I reckon it's probably about time to go, all right, you guys now run it for a little bit. We'll put it in your hands. And I'll tell you, it was, do you know Barack Obama? Like, you'd know who that guy is, maybe?
Yeah.
So I read his book, Dreams from My Father. And there's this story that he tells about organizing in Chicago, where he basically was volunteering and trying to create change on the ground in Chicago. And he said that's where he learned everything. He learned to be able to speak publicly, to move people, and eventually, became president. And I kind of think I learned so much with what I, get to apply now by just doing that hustle, trying to work out, how do you convince someone to volunteer? How do you convince someone who's got certain viewpoints on Aboriginal people to maybe open their heart? How do you convince a kid who looks at you and goes, no way I'm listening to you? Like, how do you build those bridges? And learning that's been pretty gnarly. Hey, Dion, what sort of brought you into this tent? Tell us a little bit about yourself, and thanks for joining us today.
Hey, Jack, thanks for having me. Well, I've loved AIM for so many years now. Ever since one of my best friends got me involved, I've been going to, the program days for about 3 years now. And so, when I heard that there was going to be this university, I'm very keen to find out, more about what it's about and be involved with it. I'm up here in Brisbane on Jagera and Turrbal people land. And I've started a social enterprise, a non-for-profit called New Vote, which I think is one way that we could help change the world and make it a better place.
Yeah, awesome. And I think, one of the things we haven't been able to do that well to date with what our work before creating the university is really give a space for that network to connect, where, for example, if your project for change is to take New Vote to the next level, being able to share that in a world where we've hopefully brought a bunch of people who are investors, who are interested in big ideas. And then if you want to have a really interesting mixture of kids, then maybe you give a chance for Riley to jump on the team or work on it if Riley wants to. Hey, Riley, have you thought about what you're doing next year?
I've had a lot of thoughts go through. I've had a lot of opportunities, but I'm kind of back to square one on what I really want to go through with. Like, I've had so many set ideas on what I want to do. But then as time goes on, I kind of second thought it and all that. But I'm still open minded to whatever I want to do, and still looking for new career pathways as I go. And the imagination, or just AIM and everything, I've loved being a part of that since grade 7, pretty much, the past 5 years of my life, and it's changed a lot. It's influenced so many ideas and different perspectives on my life. So be more than happy to continue with this as I can.
We've done a little bit of the work. You do all the work. We just kind of provide the world for you to turn up into. I think, one of the things, take it or leave it, advice, you get advice from everybody. But if you do have the opportunity to go to university, to not just our university, but to another university, I think having some time to grow up in a little bit of a safe environment and to think for a little bit and just kind of work it out is, I think, part of what that does, that university experience, is just buys you a bit of time, because I don't think you're ever going to really know. And your generation, and I'm somewhere connected to this generation, looking at probably 11 jobs in a lifetime. So there's lots of different things that we have to develop in terms of inventiveness. But if you get a space to either work in a joint or do some space where you can think with some freedom, I reckon it's really helpful as you're trying to work out how to be a grown-up, whatever that looks like. I'm still trying to work it out.
Yeah, Riley, I have to agree with Jack. I know, you haven't asked for this advice, but you got plenty of time, and it is a really great idea to have to choose. You can sort of have almost like a plan A and a plan B. So my plan B is be a lawyer. I'm a lawyer. And I do legal work, but my plan A is New Vote. And having the plan B means that I have that sort of safety net, like Jack talks about. I don't have to necessarily worry about where the food's coming to the plate, but it also gives me, the flexibility to try and, pursue my passions. So, I was 27 when I came up with New Vote. So, it does take a bit of time to really work out what it is that you want to do.
Yeah, and I'm all for the advice. I'm so open-minded to hearing what everyone else has to say, and from all of like everyone else's experiences, it just helps me see that different point of view from someone else's perspective to help me decide what I really want to do, and all the just hard work. I'm willing to do anything. So
that's it, mate.
Yeah,
Well
thanks
done.
for all the advice and anything.
Easy, man. Well, I'd love to see you have a crack at being, if you do end up on a university campus, I'd love to see you have a crack at being an Imagination president. And even if you don't, I reckon it'd be really cool to give yourself the chance to do some of that organizing as you jump out of school, when you've still got that, connection to so many youngsters that are around. Like, yeah, it could be really cool. And I think practically, like, when you get all the goop of all this information, just try your very, 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 very best to sometimes say, shut up, brain, and just let your heart try and drive you a little bit. Because when you've got a feeling that's sending you somewhere, often we don't have the words to explain that feeling, but if something's pulling you, just go there, because that's going to be the thing that's going to bust you into new spaces. And sometimes that hasn't been created yet. That might be a bit scary, and you might have something in you that goes, actually, I want to choose Z. Choose Z. It's more fun than choosing A, B, C, D, E, F, G. You can always do A, B, C, D, E, F, G a bit later. Hey, Riley, Dion, thanks for jumping in. We'd love to see you guys involved in Imagination University, and we're it's been a pleasure chatting to you all.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks for having me.
Oh, good. We're gonna kick it with a tune now, which is Zave, we've got the AIM anthem. Is that what we're doing?
Yep, that's up next.
Hey, Xavier, good to have you on the show. Awesome. We've got the AIM anthem that we record, try to do every year with youngsters from around the world. And this one we did in 2019 with some of the kids that we've worked with around the world. And the tune is a remake, rework cover of Sam Cooke's Change Is Gonna Come. Hope you enjoy it.
I was born by the river in a little tent. Oh, and just like the river, I've been running ever since. It's been a long time coming, but I know change gon' come. Oh, yes, it will. It's been too hard living, but I'm afraid to die. 'Cause I don't know what's up there beyond the sky. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes, it will. I go to the movie and I go downtown. Somebody keep telling me don't hang around. It's been a long time coming, but I know the change gon' come. Oh, yes, it will. Then I go to my brother and I say, brother, help me please. But he winds up knocking me back down my knees. There's been times that I wouldn't last for long.
Derek, great to have you with us today. It's been an enjoyable 6 or so months since we last caught up, which is pretty early on our journey with IMAGI-NATION TV. I'd love to get your thoughts as you've kind of watched a little bit of this roadmap and what you think we could be able to do with IMAGI-NATION University and more broadly your experience with IMAGI-NATION.
Yeah, hi, Jack. It's been really exciting. To me, the appeal of University Imagination is, well, first of all, it's so open, so accessible, it's global, and it's democratic. And all those things, I think, make it so different to the standard university. And it's not focused on being part of a cog in the economic machine. It's looking at individuals and their ability to be who they are. I think that's a very different, maybe what originally universities were for, but not what they've become lately.
Yeah, I'm fascinated in that as I've been sort of studying my whole, at least adult life, trying to work out how the heck to be a mentor. I've always been fascinated by higher order thinking and knowledge, and thinking about, Aristotle and Plato establishing their academies and schools respectively, trying to work out, was that about a job or was that about a pursuit of morality and ethics? Or, it was definitely for a small class. It wasn't open to everybody. But yeah, I'm not sure what your reflections are on some of those early models of thinking. Were they democratic, and what was their pursuit? What was their objective?
Yeah, I think democracy generally, even though it was invented by the Greeks at that stage, it was still a very, it had boundaries. And obviously the people who were in the higher classes, so to speak, there were slaves, there were all sorts of others who weren't invited into that democratic process. So I think we're a little bit more enlightened now. Democracy has expanded.
I'd hope so. I think that's part of hopefully humans learning from history, isn't it? That and I've been so lucky to sit in to discover a few of these things of, with mentoring, just how much of a gift it is to have knowledge passed on to you by people who have been down the path already. And it just makes it easier. So you don't walk into the same wall, you learn.
Although we keep on doing that, don't we?
Yeah.
We keep walking into those walls, trying to think we can break through, climb over, find ways, and eventually we do. We find a way through them.
Yeah, I think finding that, perhaps it's an inevitable part of the Homer Simpson genome of humanity that sometimes we will be told something, and I'm not a very good example. I often get told something and then we'll do the opposite of it. But hopefully, if you have a moral code, you're trying to do something good out of the frame. Hey, Jared, thanks for dropping in and joining us. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're seeing with IMAGI-NATION University that sort of piqued your interest.
Yeah, so I guess I have a pretty unique story. I started off in Queensland, a young Indigenous man. I didn't really feel connected with my community back then. A lot more so now that I've been able to meet people in my community. And yeah, I grew up in a broken household, a lot of different things going on. Went to 8 different primary schools, eventually ended up in Sydney. And, it's through the help of organizations like AIM, Career Trackers, the Go Foundation. I think my generation has been kind of one of the first generations to actually benefit from these programs and stuff. So I guess my place that I'm coming from is I want to be able to give back what I've kind of received. And I've been a part of AIM this year and what I've been doing. And obviously it's been a little bit different because of COVID, but being able to see the students and give them some help and some advice from my own experience now has been incredible. And that's kind of why I want to be a part of the next step.
Yeah, I think that was, how old are you now, Jared?
18.
Yeah, I was kind of had exactly the same thought. I had to fill in the application to go to uni at 17, and the scholarship was for an Indigenous leadership scholarship, and it was based off the Rhodes model, which is sort of this Oxford scholarship gig. And I remember walking in for the application and sitting in this gnarly old room, like up these 7 flights of stairs. It was like being Harry Potter or something, and there was all these like serious people around, and this statue was sitting in the back of the room. And then the statue spoke, and I realized that it was just like a really old dude. And he said, you know, tell us, why should we give this scholarship to you and not to anyone else? And I just remember feeling, you know, my mum worked her butt off, like came out of country, New South Wales, one of 7. My grandfather went and fought in World War II and then came back and wasn't a citizen. I wouldn't say that we grew up privileged, but we had a home. Like mum had got to a place where we made sure we always had food. Like I was one of the better, you know, I'd been better off than a lot of Aboriginal kids, and I didn't face the discrimination of having black skin. So I didn't have to face discrimination a lot of my family had faced just purely on skin color. So I felt like if I got this gig, I was obliged to put something back. That was a prerequisite for me getting a scholarship. That investment meant that, right, I get this, and now I've got to make sure I can bring people with me. And so we, you know, ran concerts and eventually started working with 25 kids. And then by the end of my degree, it was sort of 60, 70 kids we were mentoring. And then over time, it's been more. But that's at the heart of what I think. I'm fascinated in working in partnership with groups like Career Trackers and groups like Go. And then we're about to chat to the Obama Foundation and other scholarship providers for marginalized kids globally, because I think there's a really interesting infrastructure there, which is all of these people who are generationally getting an opportunity to go to university, potentially getting support with accommodation or degree support, and saying, yeah, absolutely, that's one person out of inequality. But if we can get you guys for a year to go and work with 100 kids and to get 100 uni students who are going to be, you know, powerful in the future, to then think differently about people outside the margins, then the multiplier effect of that investment is massive. And what we've worked out is we don't have to do all of that because there's already an ecosystem of people providing those scholarships, but we've got some tools that can help you go out and organize. And that's, yeah, I'm pumped to be able to do that with people like you, Jared, and other university students around the world, because you just learn so much. You know, you learn so much about yourself, about there's very, very, nothing more confronting than standing in front of a group of kids trying to tell them something, or standing in front of a bunch of university students trying to convince them to act differently and grab their attention. And yeah, I think teaching, Derek, is a great way to work out how to learn, I found over time. I'm not sure if you found that during your career as well.
You certainly learn a lot about yourself. I think when I was asked to be part of this program, I wrote back saying that, you know, I felt that there was probably less learning done in the university lecture theatre than there was actually in the out in the school. This is for teacher education students, and certainly more in the tutorials. The lectures I felt were more, for me, they seemed to be more about my ego, standing in front of 400, 500 people and giving my wisdom. And it was great. I loved it, especially because when I left school in year 10, I had no idea what a university was. And here I was in a university, and I was, you know, I was becoming a researcher and a teacher, a lecturer. It was very exciting, stroked the ego beautifully. But the real learning, I think, for me, it happened when students went out into the schools, into the classrooms, and when they were with the young people themselves, not when they were with old blokes like myself.
Well, I think it's a combination. I think you definitely require theoretical knowledge and the richness of people going and doing that artistic journeying into specific fields of knowledge. That's such a gift, and we require people like yourself to do that diving. And without that, you can't then play in the playground because you're not sure what the parameters of the world are. Marcus and Energy, what's interesting you both about Imagination University?
I think like the magic of AIM has existed in like a bit of a bubble, and I feel as if this is such a cool opportunity to spread, you know, just to spread what we do to everyone possible. You know, there's really nobody who's excluded, you know, from the magic now. We can really approach people in a way that, you know, the university is sort of like, there's no exclusion. Anyone you see on the street could be a part of the university, and that's amazing. Like where previously, you know, there's been doors. Now we're building bridges. That's really exciting.
You have no idea how much getting to that point has tortured my brain for 16 years. Just trying to, like, I've always looked at IKEA and been like, why can't I just do what IKEA did and just let people put it together themselves, like get some basic ingredients. But part of, I was chatting to this guy, Nicholas, was one of the founders of Orange Sky Laundry yesterday, and like awesome guy. And they do fantastic work going out, and they've got mobile laundromats that go and clean clothes for homeless people. And they're really phenomenal characters. And just saying that sometimes you just need to work out what you don't know before you can then say, here are the tools. Like, I actually think that we know some stuff now, but that's after 16 years, and it's hard to, but I've been desperate to try and get to a place where we can give it away, where we can get out of our own way. And I just remember someone who used to work for us who then went and worked in Telstra, which is a big telecommunications company in Australia. And he came back to talk to our team about 8 years ago and said, look, there's heaps of change that's got to happen in corporate Australia. Like, there's heaps of change that's got to happen in the world. And you are in a bubble, and the challenge is working out how you get what's in this AIM bubble and change the country or change the world. And it would have killed me if 30 years on we had big gala balls and we all felt great about ourselves and we didn't end educational inequality in Australia. And we didn't, we did that all while on our watch the seas rose up and we ended up just being flooded, or we did it in a time when there's mass food shortages around the world. You can't go into one problem and say, we're going to solve educational inequality for this select little group. We're going to build a great club and we don't give a shit about the rest of the world, because that's not complex thinking with the whole ecosystem of what's moving around. And I think that's why I'm also inspired, Marcus, is the opportunity to connect and, with people like Derek and Jared and yourself and Energy and go, all right, here's the tools, get to work. Let's see what happens. Energy, what's got you interested?
Well, just for me, just living in such a traditional education space, I find didn't always push me in more of like a negative way. So having and creating this space where you're open to interacting with people, whether it's in industry or currently learning and doing these things, it doesn't put that pressure, allowing you to really be creative and open and more receptive to people sharing their experience and their knowledge with you. And there's no pressure of how like your grades and things like this. It's more about your journey and finding that. And I think that's amazing.
Well, thank you all for joining us today to riff quickly on Imagination University. I'd love you to chuck in your expressions of interest at aimmentoring.com and put your foot in the door. And yeah, I think part of, if we want to change this world, it's going to come up to our individual responsibility every single day to go, all right, what am I going to do now to make these things change? And I had a really special note back from a sparring partner who's 72, who is the chair of our US board, and he taught at Harvard for 30 years. And Chris, we've been kind of working on the strategy of how we can do what you spoke to so eloquently, Marcus, how we can get that magic away out of this little bubble. And he looked at the strategy 2 years ago. I was like, this is the most hectic strategy. I don't think he said hectic, but he said, this is the most overreaching strategy in so many different ways. You're trying to do 10 business plans at once. And I said to him, we have to. Like, I don't know what else we can do. The world requires us to do extraordinary things at this time because we're in an extraordinary moment. And we sent the university application form to him last week. And part of it, I wrote, I'm founding a university, or we're founding a university, and I'm age 35. And he said, well, at age 72, I enroll again. And that was awesome to think that that's going to be part of the mixture of people that are coming together. So thank you all for being a part of today. We're going to finish with Xavier. What's the next bid?
Do the promo again.
You mean a launch film or?
Launch film.
Yeah, sick. Awesome. Derek, Jared, Marcus, Energy, thanks for joining us, and thanks to everyone who's been on the show today. And we'll be back tomorrow at Australian Eastern Daylight Time to bring together a really complex network of people who are going to be enrolling in Imagination University and explore the world we're going to build together in 2021. Thanks for tuning in. See you tomorrow.
Thanks, Jack.
We know what happened in 2020. But let's imagine 2021.
Let's imagine what a free and just world looks like.
Let's imagine a university free for all, with no paywalls to higher order thinking for anyone, anywhere. Let's imagine a social network for good, a bridge for us to come together and redesign the way the world works. Let's imagine what happens when we tell the kids at the back of the class that we see you.
There is a generation of kids just like you.
Let's imagine school students, university students, teachers, executives, citizens coming together to learn. Curriculum designed for the future we hope to build. Now imagine. It's happening right here. And you're invited. Welcome to Imagination University, brought to you by AIM, the Imagination Factory. Applications are open now.